Right, here we are. Right, so our project team consisted of 5 people, basically. Okay, so from Lincoln College, we were looking to get another network provider, and Prakash used the main sort of sorting everyone out in Leicester. Couldn't get someone else to join our team, unfortunately. So it was down to only 5 of us. So our research question was, how do we embed contextualized learning through collaboration to support progress in maths learning? So over the years, we've tried all sorts of different things. Trying to bring about success for our learners, trying to progress them through. But I suppose now we go for it's about progress, not perfection. A lot of students at sort of Lincoln College, Newark College, Gainsborough College will come in with quite low levels of maths ability. So they will be grade 1, grade 2. There'll be a smattering of grade 3s. And obviously over the last 2 years, we've seen the predicted grades come about, but we offer Gcse to all of them. So I'm aware some people in the room might only be doing it for grade 3 students. We are delivering Gcse for grade 1, grade 2 and grade 3. Okay, so why did we go about choosing contextualization? It's basically been on student feedback, it's been on staff feedback, it's been speaking to vocational staff as well. That's why we went about doing this. Generally, our students have had bad experiences at school. They feel they've been left behind. They feel the content's not relevant to them. They feel it's out of touch. They feel that they turn up to lessons where they're not really learning anything that they can practically apply. So I'm not going to sort of sit here and say that, everything can be contextualised to GCSE, because people will be well aware that it probably can't. But is it an avenue to go down? Yes, it certainly is. Okay, so that was sort of our reasoning behind choosing contextualisation. That's why we decided to go down this path. Okay, evident that students wanted to make the meaningful link, so they do. These students are sort of telling us that they can't ever see any relevance to what they're being told in lesson to how they can apply it. A lot of our stuff is very abstract, and we're well aware that when it comes to GCSE exams, it's very abstract as well. They'll get those questions that they can't really relate to, but I think through contextualization, it gives them the ability to problem solve for themselves and bring it about. Okay. So what does the research say about this? Well, I picked out this particular one because we've done quite a bit of research on it, but I picked out this particular quote because it says here, look, engaging in use of general real-world situations and those directly relevant to vocational pathways have shown some success in improving learning experiences. And I think I'm a fan of, if you can see the practical relevance of using something or learning something, you'll tend to remember it better. Now, is our research showing that that is the case? I think it's going in the right direction. Now, we're probably not as far on as the previous one with all of our numbers up on display. We just want to fine tune that for our report. But overall, I've got a couple of videos of like we've done a mixed method. I'm going off at 10. Let me stick with my plan. Okay, so research is also suggesting that teaching in an abstract form can limit learning. And I think there, what we're saying is, over the years, we've all tried procedural. We've told them you do this, you get this outcome. I'm agreeing with this research that yes, it definitely limits the outcomes, and we're better off going with a plan of showing it in a context and then deliver it to them, see if they can, see if we see improvement in that sort of format. But in terms of vocational, which I'll get onto. Okay, how do we go about with our project? Well, first off, it's identifying project members and vocational tutors, and I would say here this is probably one of the crucial bits you want to get right. Because in the department, obviously, we had 5 people doing it with us, but I opened up to everyone who was a maths teacher. I said, who wants to get involved with it? And I would say at that point, people were sort of, we've tried all this before. I'm not bothered about doing that. I don't want to do this. So I think you've got to really, at that point, cut your losses and get rid of those people. If people don't want to try something, don't let them bring down the rest of the team, because you might have some new, fresh blood in the team who really want to get stuck into doing something. If you get someone in there who's like, oh, well, I'll do it, you've got to really get the buy-in. Now, I suppose it comes down to that principle. You've got to sort of sell the idea. We're trying to bring about change. We're going to do something and get everyone, on the same page as you. That also goes for vocational tutors. I think when we're selecting our vocational tutors to work with, say construction, that was one of our main areas, because yes, we know area and space and all that stuff lends itself nicely to it. But there's also a lot of crossover there. There are principles of build unit, which we could get stuck into. There's lots of stuff, but not all vocational tutors are on board with the GCSE maths side of things. So an example there would be, I spoke to one of the vocational tutors in Lincoln who does constructors. I can't see any relevances. And I've looked through this GCSE stuff. There's no relevance whatsoever to any of the stuff you're doing to what we're doing in the workshop. Went round and found another guy, complete different tune. He was well, we're bisect. He said even your bisecting angles. He said we're doing the skirting board, we're bisecting the angle. He said they do the principles of build exam. He said they're doing the Pythagoras stuff. He said they all get it wrong, but he said that is all relevant to them. So again, I think it depends on who you're speaking to get your project team together, which is pretty crucial to the process of carrying out your research or even carrying out this activity anyway, if you're going to run it through your college. Okay. What did we do? Well, we co-created our resources. So here we created resources, which we'll publish when we've submitted all the project. But we created our resources with the vocational areas, but not every single topic can be contextualized. So, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, when we got onto hairdressing, we could easily show them how Pythagoras was working, because we couldn't. So in that situation, what we tried to do was explain to them where it would be used in real life. So we talked about the 3, 4, 5 triangle. We talked about building. We talked about that stuff. So although hairdressers would say, well, that's no relevance to me, Glenn, why are you telling me this sort of stuff? They could see the actual practical application of it. And I think it makes a difference from saying, right, this is the procedure. There's a triangle on a page. You're going to look at this number. We're going to take the square it, look at this number. It's sort of, because we put it into a real life situation, I think we had to buy it. Now, where it lends itself to doing vocational contextualization, which obviously was our main purpose to do it, yes, by all means do it. But where not everything will lend itself to it, then don't try and make it up. Don't try and come across it. Because I think on the algebra stuff, with the guy who really got on well within construction, we did come up with some good algebra questions. But then he said, well, I'll be honest, in the industry, they probably won't use that. So we sort of said to the learners, we've created this. However, this is an example of how it could be used, but we've engineered the situation, so to speak. What did we do? Well, we did 3 data cycles, so a bit like everyone. We've done sort of 3 data cycles where we contextualised, we tried it out, we took it back, we reviewed it, we tried it again type thing. But it's within those data cycles, I think we discovered that, not everything needs to be contextualised to the vocational area. Put it in where it can do, get where it naturally goes across, then by all means do that, but don't have to force it in. What did we do? Well, we had a weekly golden hour, which is what this project has really allowed. We got together on a Wednesday for what we called our golden hour, and we talked about resources and where it fit in and that sort of thing. So that was obviously a big key to doing our project, getting together for our golden hour. Okay, what was our research methodology? Well, we met with vocational tutors. We used a mixed method approach. What we wanted to do was actually interview some of the students and staff just to get their feedback, which I've got a couple of videos, and I'll get onto them in a minute. Okay, so we did this sort of mixed method approach. We also looked at obviously activities we gave them, see if their scores were, whether they were getting good scores. Because if we're giving them contextualised activities and they're scoring like 10%, it's probably not so good. If they're scoring over 50%, we'd say, they're working quite well. And we obviously used questionnaires like I've said on the previous project, we need questionnaires there. Okay, we looked for changes in scores. We looked for common themes from student feedback, and that's where I'm going to get onto my videos in a second to show you we looked for thematic responses there. So we sort of took a random sample of our students, we videoed them. Not all responses were brilliant. Obviously the one that I selected is going to be quite a good one. But not all of them were brilliant. Not all students sort of bought into it. They're like, oh, well, it's just maths anyway. But overall, I would say, yes, it's a worthwhile approach. It's definitely worthwhile doing. Okay, so early indications is definitely that this is worth doing, trying to contextualise if you can get your college on board with it and get vocational staff on board with it. It definitely improves. I think one of our other finds will be it's improved attendance. Where we've tried to contextualise, I think we're going to have as one of our outcomes that attendance has gone up. I need to confirm that, but it looks like students were turning up more because they thought, well, there's some benefit to doing this stuff, and they got the buy-in to it. I'm just going to move on to my videos and come to play of the student feedback. We basically asked them 3 questions. How's maths been different for you? Has it helped you in your vocational setting? What would you do different with maths if you could tear it up and do something completely different? And then we asked 4 questions to the staff, but I've one.
Swallowing whatever. Go on. Right.
Joining me this morning, Alfie.
Yeah, no problem.
You'll be aware this year we've been doing a bit of a contextualised maths project, action learning research project, delivering maths slightly different in the classroom. Just want to ask you a couple of questions to help us with the project, if that's all right?
Yeah.
Right, question 1. How has maths been different from previous experiences?
Well, you've made it more personal for the outside life as well, because before I didn't really know 10%, 20% or anything like that, but you've made it so if I went shopping out out in the day with my mates or something, I'd be able to just know 30% off £200 straight away, and I wouldn't have to get my phone out or anything. A lot more helpful.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, second question. How has maths helped you in your vocational learning this year, or your work experience? Because obviously part of your course you have to do work experience.
Yeah, I've been able to just... Before I was really struggling to use a tape measure and stuff, and that sounds stupid, but in the joinery it's quite hard if you're not really good at maths. But you've helped me a lot with being able to measure everything up and actually get all the joints to the perfect measurement. So
Anything else you want to add in there, or you happy with that?
yeah, I'm happy with that, yeah.
Okay, right, my final question. How could GCSE maths be changed in future? So, e.g., if you could rip up GCSE maths, what would it look like in future for you or anybody else? How would you do it?
Well, I like how you've done it this year, how it's more personal and it's more kind of in the outside world instead of... There's not many stupid questions like there was in primary school or secondary school. You've made it more so it's more in the outside world, so it's more realistic. So it's helped a lot, really.
Right. Anything else you want to add in?
No.
Okay, right. Well, thank you, Alfie. I'll just...
I think here, what's interesting is that Alfred's even said things like using a tape measure. It's coming with the ability to not use a tape measure. Now, I think the trouble is here, we take it for granted that loads of these students can come in doing these sorts of skills. We do take that for granted. I must admit, even when we were getting the tape measures out, I was surprised how many of them were struggling with the tape measure. But they almost didn't say anything to the vocational teachers, saying that, because they didn't want to admit they didn't know how to use a tape measure. Just, I find that I'd probably overlooked that in the past, in all honesty, because I sort of took it for granted that kids who are coming in to do those vocational courses sort of chose them because they sort of feel that that's the path they're going to go down. So to hear him sort of coming out to say that he wanted to know how to use a tape measure, I found that very interesting, to be fair. Yes, I think all the handy stuff like percentage and stuff and whatever is handy, but yeah, definitely it's quite a... I don't know. I'll just show you the start of another one. I'm seeing here up to 14 minutes if we've got to get the question bit in 20 minutes or something. Right. I only explained the start because I just like this guy says the word realistic, and this is like one of our themes that we've been listening out for.
We've been more like realistic ways of learning. So, for example, like doing algebra, it'd be window cleaners and things.
Okay. Can you clarify a little bit more on that? Or?
So, like previous years when I've been doing maths, it's just been giving us the work, like how do you work this out? But this year we've been explaining it more in like the real world.
Okay, so you can see some relevance to where
yeah,
right. Okay, right. I'm with you.
Okay, just go on back to the time. I'll just show one of the vocation stuff where I've sort of interviewed them. We've collated it all together, but let's certainly go on. Yes, sort of 4 questions to Sappho. I won't just sit you through them all.
Joining me, Leslie. You'll be aware this year we've tried to deliver maths slightly differently in college. We've tried to contextualise it, working with obviously vocational tutors such as yourself, trying to make it different for our students. Thanks for taking the time to help us out with this interview. I want to ask you 4 questions. You can answer them any which way you want, just so we can put it into our project. Question 1 is: what differences have you noticed for your students in regard to maths this year?
Okay, so previous years there's been definitely a separation between the vocational topic and the maths. This year, because we've worked together as a team and taken a whole team approach to the study of maths and integrated it into our vocational areas, and the students are actually seeing the links. So for example, with colouring, we have to know how to mix colours. We mix ratios 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 1 to 1.5. At first, the candidates would just look at the instructions and not understand why they were actually doing it. Now they actually understand how to measure, the importance of getting the measurements correct, and how this actually links to their maths lessons. So when they go to maths now, they can actually understand the importance and the relevance to actually their vocational area. We had a lot of problems with students that have come from school who actually don't understand how to plan a day. So it might be that a lady comes in, we've done some special offers, I can say, right, we've got 10% off, and they won't actually know how to calculate 10%. Now they're in there looking at it, working out the cost of the service, they're looking how to calculate it in their heads without even writing it down, and that's how quick they've understood what they need to do for the maths and obviously the hairdressing services. So I think working hand in hand with the tutors, and having a holistic team approach to maths and the vocational areas has worked really well.
Super stuff.
Okay, so I think, you know, vocational staff seem to be on board. You probably need more time to do all this stuff to build it better. Has it increased our relationships with vocational areas? Well, yeah, of course it has. So we now know a lot more. I mean, Leslie is in the hair department. I didn't know whether at one time she was sort of having me on when we were planning resources and just really sort of labouring all the ratios and all sorts of. Yes, we showed them ratios, but the depth we went into in the hair, she was labouring it to me. But ultimately, you know, the guys who were the students, they were really on board with it, and because they had the support of the vocational staff as well, I think they're on it. So almost like you're planting seeds in college to sort of grow the project anyway. Even when ours comes to an end, we're going to carry it on. I mean, I don't know what other people's colleges are like, but we have a thing called Workplace, which is basically the Facebook of the college, well, of the workforce or whatever. I mean, on there, without sort of prompting people to do it, I've seen some of the construction guys putting on their own little maths posters and stuff, and getting on board with doing this stuff. So it's having like a natural positive impact around the college, I would say. You know, what are my thoughts on action research projects in general? Is they good? Well, yes, I would say they are. They're good for keeping your CPD up to date. It allows you to go off and do a bit of research, see what's going on, try and expand on it, sharing best practice, meeting up on events like today. Is it a good thing? Well, yes, I think it can only be. Is our research saying that contextualization is the way? Well, it's pointing towards it's having an impact on them for sure. I think it's definitely going to show the attendance is going up. It'll definitely show that they're getting certain subjects a lot better. I mean, one I had to hand. I was only thinking earlier. Even on when we did our mock papers, we used the 2019 paper, and normally questions like page 40. I don't know if it'll come up on camera, but that page 2014 where they've got the sort of they've got the perimeter and they've got to work it out into its simplest form. So they've got ratio brought in there. Generally, most of them would sort of miss that question. Whereas now, you know, I was staggered at how many actually did it and did it well. Is it a good thing? I think it can only be.